Welcome again, everybody. It's the Weekly Joe Podcast, episode 7. I'm Paul Graham here again tonight with Meghan Dennis, regular on the panel. Roger Myers joining us from the northern office. Drew Champlin, who's funning and sunning at the beach, I still believe. And our very special guest, who we will get to momentarily, and you'll recognize the name. Got a great story to go through, both his background as a former Alabama player and Birmingham Southern's pitching coach, the biggest story in the country. That's Geoffrey Bramblett, up to my top left. This is episode 7. We're previewing Alabama's, what do we call it? The Tallahassee Regional. I'm sorry, their appearance in the NCAA Regionals in Tallahassee coming up this weekend. We'll talk a little bit about the SEC tournament. Obviously, we didn't get much more than a cup of coffee there. We'll talk about the first 3 innings maybe. But more importantly tonight, we're going to get into the story that is really kind of taking America by storm. This story is bigger than Taylor and Travis right now. You guys think of a bigger sports story and happening right here in Birmingham. And we've got a special connection to this being an Alabama-based podcast, Alabama baseball-based podcast. We're going to welcome Geoffrey Bramblett. You remember him from his time at Alabama, 2014 to 2016. And Geoffrey, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm doing well. A lot going on, but doing well.
Great. Geoffrey, for the listeners, and they're usually, I don't know, in a given week, 250,000 or so usually listen to this podcast. Tell them a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are, starting from your days, where you grew up and where you are now.
Yeah, so I'm from Birmingham, Hoover native, went to Hoover High School, graduated in 2013. Wanted to play baseball at Alabama my whole life and got the opportunity and did that from 2014 to 16 and played a little bit of pro ball, some good and some bad in there, but loved that journey, really enjoyed that. I actually dipped my toe in the technology industry not too long ago, so got out of baseball for a second, did that, and then kind of had in the background in my mind the whole time about coaching, and Coach Weisberg at BSC gave me an opportunity, and it's worked out really well.
Fantastic. And you got to BSC in 21. Have you been there?
No, this is my first year. So
first year. Yep. Okay. All right. First year there. Okay. You're obviously you played in the minors with the Royals organization. You were a 30th round pick in 2016. You played in the independent league. Dip your toe in there, like you say. I guess the COVID year kind of threw a kink in things, perhaps.
Yeah, it did a little bit. I had a really good year in 2019, got picked up by the Diamondbacks in 20, went out to Arizona for about 10 days, and COVID blew up, got quarantined in hotel rooms, and that whole process started, right? And then got sent home, and about 2 months later got released again. So figured I had a really good year that I would try it again. So I went back the next year, had another good year in 21, ended up having elbow surgery at the end of the season there.
I got you. All right. So have you got the star of
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got it.
It's a badge of honor. We say, but you got to get it eventually, and
that's right.
It's a badge of honor and great.
Are you really a pitcher if you don't have it, right?
Especially these days, no doubt.
You ain't trying hard enough. Again, thanks to our executive producer, Token Barner Evelyn, who's here sitting to my right. She's off camera, waving, but she was responsible for getting Geoffrey on tonight. When she calls, people listen. And Geoffrey was quick to jump on this opportunity to get in front of our 250,000 listeners. All right, let's talk Birmingham Southern baseball. Again, biggest story in the country right now. Everything going on in Division I, and teams making the super regionals or the regionals and whatnot. I think this story I've seen NBC Nightly News. Oh my goodness! I mean, I saw Netflix is following you guys around, or they've got a biographer or a documentarian following around. I guess today's show, I've seen different stories. Just talk to us a little bit. For people, most people know the background here. Birmingham Southern College, based here in Birmingham, has been in existence 150 plus years. Is closing as of Friday. I mean, the last class just graduated. Been a great baseball program. I mean, people might call this a Cinderella story, but this isn't a Cinderella team. I mean, this isn't a team coming out of nowhere, right? It's
no, not at all, right?
It's been talk a little bit about the last 20 years or more. I mean, between Coach Shoup and handing it off.
Sure. No, it's been an incredibly rich tradition and history with the program, and not just the program, but the school itself from the academic side and other sports as well. But from my own experience and knowing Coach Weisberg, he's been here for about 17 years now, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I think they've won the conference championship maybe 14 of those 17. So I mean, it's been a pretty incredible deal. But in the last 10 years, I know that they've been one of the top 5 most winningest programs in the country in Division III baseball. So they're doing something right. And not to jump too far ahead, but I definitely jumped into an incredible opportunity here, and I'm really blessed to be here. So shout out to Coach Weisberg for that one. I mean, he's an incredible guy, incredible leader, but has done a really, really good job with this program and this team specifically this year.
Yeah. The Coach Weisberg took over for Coach Shoup. Coach Shoup left to go to UAB in 2006. Right. I mean, you talk about stability.
Yeah.
17, 18 years there. And Coach Shoup, Drew, how many years was Shoup at Birmingham Southern? I mean, he was
he was 20 or so before.
I mean, yes. I mean,
he had like guys like, Butch Thompson coached under him, if I remember right, and a couple of guys that I played with, or I didn't play with, but went to school with. Jason Avery was a guy who led him to that NAIA World Series title in 2001, and a guy named Connor Robertson was on that team, was a freshman. His brother is David Robertson, who had a very long career, or still is playing in the major leagues. So Connor had a couple a well, but yeah, a lot of other really good players. He got drafted high, and then when they went from D1 to D3, they had a lot of guys who ended up transferring to pretty big programs. So it's been a lot of talented players over the years.
Mm-hmm. You think about the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL as the kind of the modicum of coaching continuum. You went from Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher. It's just continued on with Mike Tomlin. I mean, for 3 coaches and 50 or so years there, very much like that. So I just make that point to let people realize this is a good program. You weren't off to a great start this year, though. Let's go back to the end of May. I think this all went down. The board announced this, I believe, on a Tuesday. You guys had just finished playing Berry College over in that's not Rome. What is that? Rome?
Georgia.
It's Rome, Georgia.
Georgia. Yeah, we got a connection there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we sure do. It's in Rome. You're coming off that series. You're 13-2, and the board of trustees makes the announcement that the school's going to close at the end of the year. Talk about that day a little bit.
It was tough. And coming from somebody like myself that hasn't been involved and invested for the amount of time that some of these guys have, especially the 4th and 5th year seniors. Coach Weisberg's been here, like I said, 17 years. Our other assistant, JD, played here and then has coached here for a number of years as well. So some of these guys have been invested in this school for a really, really long time. So to see how they handle that from an emotional standpoint, I mean, that's something that you love, right? That you wake up every day, you get to be a part of, and you're being told, hey, this is going to end. It's over now, and there's no more. So that was probably one of the toughest days I've had in a long time, just seeing those guys that I'm starting to invest in have to go through this emotionally. And it's been hard for me as well. It's not that it hasn't. But, like I said, I haven't been here quite as long, and my number one job is to do everything I can for these guys and the players to help them here and now, but then certainly help them going forward to find other places to play and things like that. But that day was tough. It was Coach Weisberg talked about kind of grieving it, right? Letting it sink in. It's okay. We got to deal with it anyways. It's not one of those things that we can just push to the side and keep moving forward. Like, it's okay to deal with that right now, and then we'll figure our way around it, as we go. But we've had a really good group go through this thing.
Yeah. But you made a point there. I mean, as a coach, you got to worry about yourself, right? But in this instance, you got to put those players first and foremost. You probably can't even think about your next move.
Right.
It's all about their mental and emotional well-being and trying to salvage the season.
Yeah, you're trying to still win. There's no question there, right? But at the same time, it becomes bigger than just the game, right? It's these kids, their education, their next steps, where they're going to live for the next couple of years, their relationships are going to create all those things. So baseball is certainly there. But in that moment, you realize what priorities really are, right?
Right.
We preach all the time about playing the game the right way, playing it hard, those type things. But off the field, there's so much there too as a college athlete. So my number one goal, and I know Coach Weisberg, he's been preaching this to our guys the entire time, is about finding the people that you can invest in, a place where you can go and certainly continue to play, but another place that's similar to BSC. And it's tough to find those places, but they are out there. That part of our job is to help them find that.
Right. I believe you got 10 seniors on your roster. I've read in a couple of places that several guys will probably, retire and, finish off and go into their own profession. But I mean, about how many of your guys right now are you thinking, or, that are looking for, I mean, obviously anybody with remaining eligibility or years left, I mean, how many are trying to find places to play at this point?
I don't think that we have, I don't think we have any, honestly, that are saying that they just want to hang it up outside of those seniors that are done, right? I think each of these guys, they love baseball, first of all, and they love to compete. So out of the, I don't know, maybe 37 on the roster, I'd probably say 25 of them are going to go play next year.
Awesome.
Geoffrey, are those guys, are they level wise, talent wise? What levels do you think they could?
Roger's already tampering, Geoffrey.
No, not
That's
tampering.
okay. No, we got a good mix. We do. We got some guys that can play. Certainly at the Division I level, there's things that need to be cleaned up, right? And there's improvement to be made. But at the same time, the top end talent is certainly there. The potential's there. I think we got a good handful that will stay at the Division III level, which is in my opinion, an incredibly good thing to do, right? It's a place where you can go play, you can compete, you're going to get innings as pitchers, you're going to get at bats as hitters, those type things. So it is a healthy mix, which has been a lot of fun to work with, because for on the pitching side, you have guys that are your 82 to 84 to 85, but then we do have a couple guys that are your 88, 90, or a couple guys that might be 92, 94. So you kind of have all that in between, which has been the most fun thing, right? Because at the Division I level, at least these days with NIL and the transfer portal and all that, it's the best of the best, right? So you got guys that are 95 plus everywhere, and they walk out there and they're better than most people, right? But here, the development side is so big. So seeing some of these guys grow from being a Division III player only to a Division II player and hopefully a Division I player has been really cool.
Nice.
And we talked a little bit about Coach Weisberg and what program he's built, and just the longevity of his. Talk about his leadership through this process, and what you've kind of learned from a leadership standpoint as a leader. It's
right. No, I've probably learned more in the last 10 months from a leadership standpoint, not even a baseball specific standpoint, but just leadership in general, than I could have ever asked for. And to specifically go through this situation with the school closing and him being here for so long and being so invested, how he handled that from a standpoint of, it could be really easy to get really, really down. And then we came back, we go 19-4, we could get really, really high, right? So to see him kind of weather the storm as a leader and not let his guys get too high or get too low, but just trust the process, continue to work hard, keep the main thing, right? We'll take care of the off the field stuff as we go, but we're still here to compete. We're still here to play. We're still here to love the game and be where our feet are, so to speak, right? And he's done a really, really good job from that standpoint. So in my opinion, from a learning side of things for me, I mean, it has been an incredible journey.
Great. And so you're sitting at 13-10. I mean, like you said, it probably takes some days to kind of grieve this, and you're probably right back on the field playing a game within a day or two, I'd imagine. To go on, like you said, a 19-4 run, turning around from 13-10, 19-4 is hard to pull off at any league, especially in your league when you're on the road. What kind of turned? I mean, obviously there's that momentum you get from this, and you're all banded together, but the better talent's going to win most of the time, right? I mean, what clicked right there?
So I think, and I can speak on the pitching side with me being the pitching coach, but that Barry series, we didn't pitch it very well, and we ended up losing 2 out of 3 at home to a team that's a good team, a team that I thought that we should have taken the series, and we didn't. That's part of the game, right? You win some, you lose some, but we had a little come to Jesus meeting, so to speak, and we ran a little bit, which we don't do much, right? But we did it, and just a wake up call, so to speak, right? To see the talent and the potential that we have, and then us not be living up to it, right? That can be frustrating. That can be disappointing. And it wasn't our guys feeling the pressure from me to, hey, you're not doing good enough, let's go run now. It wasn't that. I think our guys could look in the mirror and say, hey, there's more there for us. We're better than the way we're pitching right now. We got to do something to get to that next level. And then, like you said, a week later, we get the news about the school closing, which I think was just a downpour of emotion and twists and turns all over, right? So I think we kind of pigtailed off of that wake-up call against Barry into this grieving sadness and disappointment of all this stuff going on, to really see the big picture, right? And it's not wins and losses. It's not, who throws the hardest, who has the best breaking ball, right? It's just enjoy the opportunity you've been given, right? Because our rope is short, so to speak, right? Like, we don't have a whole lot left. And I think that in itself was a wake-up call. And guys said, hey, we don't have anything to lose here. We might as well go out, play free, have fun, enjoy doing this thing for the last time together, right? Because we're not going to get to again. And I think we've collectively taken that approach. It's been really, really impressive to see.
Great.
That's sort of a little similar to what Alabama went through last year.
Yeah.
On a different level, but as far as like, let's bind together, and
right,
forward and do what we can, because like you say, they're not all going to be together.
Right.
Each team's organically, it's different from year to year, even if you have returners, but obviously since you can't return at all, that's, that's, but there are some similarities there though, it seems.
And we say all the time too, life's not about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to it, right? And our guys have kind of been hitting the mouth a little bit with this thing, and not just from a baseball perspective, but again, they've handled it so well, and you can obviously see that from the results on the field, right? But if you could be in the locker room and see just the joy that these guys have playing with each other, it's pretty neat.
Right. You see, Roger I was trying to think of a good example, and thought of Alabama when a lot of times you see kind of the opposite of NFL or some basketball coach gets fired midseason and they've got to kind of pick the pieces up together, and a lot of times you might get that initial burst, but it kind of flames out. This seems like a more permanent thing, and I think it speaks to the character of your players and you guys as coaches. Single out a player or two for me. Who's kind of been the lead dog in all this?
Gosh, we've had a couple. I'd say on the pitching side, I'd say Josh Learson, who's an older guy. He's going to Sanford. He's really good arm, really good kid, works really hard, all those things. I don't want to get too far into that one. And then Hanson McCown's another one who is actually won pitcher of the year last year in our conference. Dealt with a little injury early this year and has come back and been really, really good. But those guys being older guys, they've been there, they've done it. They've had some struggles, no doubt. They have failed a lot, but they've also had a lot of success. And I think them going through that stuff has helped them be leaders going through what we're going through now.
All right, so let's get into the season rolls along. You get through the conference season, you get to the regional. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know about these guys, but we're so invested in everything going on at Alabama all weekend and trying to absorb as much as we can. So we record this on Monday. I didn't realize what was going on until all of a sudden, hey, you see the highlight of your shortstop throwing the guy out at first. The end of the game is on Sports Center and every highlight reel weekend before last. And so you're going to the super against Denison, who's a pretty formidable team. Talk about that team you were playing a little bit, because they were you certainly were the underdog going in this past weekend.
Right. Well, they're 42-6 and had won a lot of baseball games, and top to bottom from a lineup standpoint. They had a lot of guys that could run. They had a lot of guys that would go gap to gap. They played a really big part. So home run numbers were not through the roof, anything like that, which was crazy because we've won a lot of games by hitting a lot of home runs. And in those two games, we didn't hit any, but certainly still found a way to score plenty of runs. But no, it was good. And I think it was great for us because they, at the time, were the number 2 team in the country, right? They won their regional. They're a number 2 host seed. In a super regional, we got to travel 10 hours. Like, you kind of had all those things going on for us, not to mention the food poisoning. I know you're probably wanting to get into that a little bit too, but all those things were going on, and we very well could have looked at our opponents and, man, these guys are really good, and we've got all these things, kind of holding us back, and we didn't.
Yeah. Denison University, by the way, Granville, Ohio. So you've been to, was that your first trip to Granville, Ohio?
First time.
All right. Notable alumni of Denison University. Anybody know some of these guys? They're
only one I got, Steve Carell.
Steve Carell, exactly. He's top left on the Google when you do this. Jennifer Garner of credit card commercial fame. Richard Lugar, former U.S. Senator. Hal Holbrook, a great actor. Michael Eisner, you've heard of him, Disney Corp. The great Woody Hayes, Coach Bryant's pal. Bobby Rahal, racing great, IndyCar racer, and several people who I'm sure were relevant politicians and such in Ohio and whatnot. But William Rehnquist, a former deceased now, was Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So pretty impressive. A school of 2,000 or so produces that many folks. So the weekend in Granville. This is all right. was paying attention to the Friday game, watch the Saturday game start to finish online on that stream with the one camera that we always complain about when we get it midweek, early in the year when when
Right.
softball and basketball are playing. All right, the food poisoning bout, does it hit after Friday? So were they feeling it Friday, or did it hit Saturday?
We had one guy late Friday night that got sick, but then most of it was early Saturday morning, right? We're playing at 11 a.m. and we had, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys that come down for breakfast, said they were up at 3 a.m. throwing up, all that stuff. And it kind of just started to grow, and it went from 2 or 3 guys to 4 or 5 and then to 6 or 7. By the time we're playing at 11, I think we had, I don't know, 5 or 6 guys on IV bags behind the dugout there. So, I mean, it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Weekly Joe podcast broke the story on Twitter, by the way, of the illness that had spread. I've done my research on this and can prove that we were the first to break it. I got pictures from somebody that was there. And yeah, I mean, hey, it looked like it was a pretty hot day up there, wasn't it?
It was hot. It was hot. And their field is partially turf. Their infield's turf, right? Which obviously makes everything hotter. Their outfield was regular grass, but the turf did not help. It was warm for sure.
Right. There was basically a mash unit down the right field line in the 10x10 tent. Guys laid up, getting IV. One of your guys, all right, call names here, but I don't know if it's the guy that saved the game or the guy that was in right before him, comes in with a wrap around his arm where he just got an IV. Right. Talk
Actually,
about that.
The last 2 guys, Jacob Fields came in and threw maybe 2+ innings. Some changes there, but then Charlie Horn as well got the last out of the game, and both those guys were 2 of the ones that were hurting a little bit. And I've never experienced that. Right, I've never been sick and had an IV before I pitched in a game, so there was some serious toughness there that those guys showed.
And Charlie comes in on 2 pitches and gets the save. All right, let me ask you this, because you got to look at it in retrospect. I see these guys coming out. I see this kind of mash unit over there. If you end up, they had second and third and 2 out, right? I mean, so the winning run is at second, I think, right? Where you, if you lose that game, what have you got left in game 3?
We surprisingly, we actually did have a few arms, and the whole point in that game too was trying to not burn those back end guys. So if we did need them for that game 3, then they'd be there. There's all that strategy that comes to play, right? Because yes, you want to do everything you can to win that game in front of you, but you also got to understand that if you don't by chance, you still have a chance to win the next one. And you need some guys there. We kind of had to make some tweaks to the plan there, especially when it was, we were up. I think it was 7-2, maybe 7-1.
I think you were up 7-2, 3-5. Yes, you were up 5-1, 7-1. Oh, wait, that's the wrong day. I'm on the wrong day. My bad. No, wait, that is that day. Yeah. You were up 3-5, 5-1. You were up 5-1, then 5-3, then 5-4, and then you got 2 in the ninth. Yeah, so you were up 5-1 at one point. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, all those decisions though are kind of based with the backdrop of what if we do lose, right? What do we have left? And we certainly had arms. We had 4 or 5 guys. Carter Tice is an older guy that's thrown plenty of innings for us this year and years prior, and has done really well. Actually, through game 3 of the regional and won, went 4 scoreless for us to open up that game. And then a couple younger guys, Cam Mullins, a freshman who's got 30+ innings on the year, lefty out of the bullpen. It's been really good. So we had some guys there, certainly. We're sitting here as saying, hey, I'm glad we did win that game, so we didn't have to play. But if we did, we were ready for it. Okay,
good. Yeah. It feels like it could be a pretty deflating situation if you go from 5-1 lead and you drop this game 8-7. You got to turn around and play in half an hour. And I mean, anything can happen, but really clutch getting that last out and locking that game down. Like I mean, we've mentioned, and I want you to hold that thought you had on how you make decisions on who you throw, because we're going to talk about that in context of the Alabama weekend, and we'll probably talk about that with you and how you approach a double elimination, bracket in the final 8 here. Anyway, so you get through it. Now we go to Eastlake, Ohio. Is the site of this? Is that where they play this every year? Pretty much every year.
I want to say it changes every maybe 4. And this will be the first year in Eastlake, Ohio. Again, I wasn't obviously here last year, so This is my first go round, but I think East Lake is maybe high A for the Indians there in Cleveland.
Okay, gotcha. And of course, did you guys fly? Yeah, Guardians now. You're right.
That's
hey,
right.
Don't get us canceled. I mean, come on.
Sorry. You can tell what generation of baseball I'm from.
You won't be the reason we get canceled. The reason we get canceled is not here tonight, but did you fly up, or did y'all bust right?
We bust to Denison, but we will fly tomorrow up to
great.
Great.
Oh, not the GoFundMe must have worked well.
It's up there. I haven't checked this afternoon. I checked this morning, and it's definitely doing well.
And I think that's a great thing, honestly. And I was gonna throw that out there. $102,000 out there. There's a GoFundMe. We'll link it on the site, or when you guys link it, maybe at the podcast. Funds for travel expenses, which I think the NCAA covers probably the basics, but hopefully y'all are getting to do this up in style. And then College World Series rings for these guys. Hopefully winning rings, coming home winning, but I mean, getting there is another thing. And then I think the cool thing, and this goes back to you guys and what you've all put into this, is that any remaining funds will go to BSC baseball staff to help in their next step. I mean, there's no severance package when your university closed, right? I mean,
that's right.
You got to think about that. I mean, or what's your, before we get into the next weekend, I mean, what are your next thoughts? Are you, have you had time to even think about it?
I have. There's been a high level of stress and anxiety and all those things, certainly, but there's been the joy of just getting to be around the game and coach and all those things. And
right.
Like I said before, I was in the tech job for a little bit, and it kind of opened my eyes to show me that this isn't what I want to do. I want to coach baseball. I want to be a part of the game. And again, going back to that blessing of this opportunity I have, it's awesome. So I know I want to continue coaching. I don't know what that looks like. Is it the college level, the professional level, even the high school level? I don't know what opportunities might be out there.
Right.
One thing, I love game, and I want to do it. So I've got to do some due diligence here, reach out to some coaches, stuff like that, and see if there's anything out there. But I think we'll know more as the season progresses, especially at the Division I level, into the regionals and supers and so on. And turnover happens a lot, and it certainly matters who you know and all those things. But at the same time, my focus has got to continue to stay here and help these guys out. Hopefully, want to come.
Is it an 8-man field as well? Okay, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure.
Well, I can tell you this: if this is an interview, you're doing a great job in the interview. Right? I mean, it's fantastic, and we'll make sure we pump this out there to everyone we know. Hire this guy. All right, this be a fantastic pickup for you. So we're going to the series. It's an 18 field. You're playing Salve Regina. I don't know if any of my fellow panelists here are hardcore Catholics and know a little Latin. Anybody?
Took Latin in 9th grade, but I don't remember much about it.
All right. Salve Regina, Hail Holy Queen. There's a prayer, Hail Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, blah blah. Anyway, that's who you're playing. I don't think I don't know if they they're in Newport, Rhode Island, which is where the Naval Academy Prep School is. Beautiful looking campus from what I researched on it. The hated Seahawks, Drew. Have you, Geoffrey? I mean, again, you get through this Saturday, you bus home, you're probably wiped out and probably fighting off everything else that everybody's dealing with. Yeah. What goes into scouting at the D3 level of a series like this?
Well, to make, and this is something we hadn't talked about yet, but to just throw this out there, I'm getting married in a month. So for full go into the wedding planning and dealing with those things. I'm trying to balance the travel, the scouting reporting, helping our guys out, and then the wedding planning over here too. So it has been pretty stressful. But to go on the scouting side of it, we use a video service that a lot of colleges use. So we video games from behind home plate, behind center field. So we have a couple different angles, and the Synergy is the video service, and they break down a lot of the games for us, and they'll kind of dissect things and filter things from a count basis or ground ball, fly ball, righty, lefty, like all kinds of stuff like that. We use that service to scout, and from all of that information, I can at least attempt to put together something that says, hey, this is this type of hitter, this is that type of hitter, and based on those things, that's how we'll kind of pitch them and approach it. Right.
The teams there, I mean, obviously they're Lynchburg is somewhat nearby, I guess. Randolph, Macon, but I mean, you probably haven't played any of these guys this year, have you, at all?
We played Wisconsin Whitewater.
Okay.
We also played Lynchburg. We played Lynchburg in the first weekend of the year.
Right. Wisconsin Whitewater must be good at everything. They're power at football. They've been
That's
for
what I heard.
years.
Yeah.
They've been a power at it for years. Pomona, you got a team from Pomona coming out. How do you say Misericordia?
Misericordia? Yeah.
Where are they from?
Not a clue.
Don't know. You don't have to worry about them. They're in the top half of the bracket. They're in a different bracket from you. It doesn't matter. You just got Salve Regina. And again, I mean, it's you kind of going back to your discussion about your pitching. What's your thoughts on this? You're playing the 2 seed. You're the 7. Your next round's the 3 and the 6. Are you treating that 2 seed game any different than maybe your follow-up game? You throw your best guy right out of the gate Friday night?
Yeah, I think for us in our position, I think it's just win the one in front of you. And that's cliche to say that, right? But you don't want to think too deep into it and plan and tweak things too much to the point where you plan things to win the second game. Well, then you don't win the first one, right? So I think we're kind of taking that approach of, all we got is this first game in front of us against Salve. So let's go win that one first, and then we'll reevaluate. And if we adjust things, then that's fine. But one game at a time, one pitch at a time, kind of the old cliche saying of that, but it's really true. You don't want to do too much. You plan, you prepare, but I think what we've done over the last 2 weeks, going 5-0, I think we got a 2.6 ERA in those 5 games. We're walking 2 guys. I'm a numbers guy sometimes, so 2 guys per 9 innings, right? So I think we just trust the plan that we've had over the last 2 weeks and keep doing it.
Yeah,
that's like a good plan.
Yeah, it sounds like. I hope you talked to JJ this week. Because I'm hoping he's taking the same approach. I really want him to see him throw Hess on Friday for us. So you guys play Salve Regina 3:45 Central on Friday. That game it'll be a webcast on the NCAA.com website. I found the link. We'll tweet it out. We'll get folks out watching that. And so for you guys, I mean, the other story that comes out of this, it's almost like, people always kid about all the NFL's rigged, they always rig it where Mahomes can win and Taylor Swift's there and her team. Well, it's okay. We've got, this team, the college is closing at the end of the year. The team comes out of nowhere after a 13-10 start and is now making, wins at Super. It's going to the World Series. Drake LaRoche is one of your pitchers, and everybody's like, hey, we know Adam LaRoche, and we know the story around that. Talk a little bit about Drake and where he fits in and all that. Is he your one of your starters?
He is. He's actually, it's kind of 1A, 1B, him and Josh Learson, I mentioned earlier. And I mean, they've both been rocks. They've been really, really good, really consistent. I think the mark of a really good pitcher is someone that you know what you're going to get, right? Like whether it's a velo standpoint or a stuff standpoint, but more importantly, just a strike throwing standpoint, right? And both those guys, they go out, they fill it up. They allow their defense to work. They certainly both have swing and miss stuff, but Drake specifically, I think being around the game so much with his dad, he really, really knows the game within the game. And it's been a ton of fun to work with. And especially from a pitch sequencing standpoint, he's really taken hold of that and kind of crafted his game around that, whether it's, pitching backwards and throwing breaking balls first or elevating his fastball. He's about an 82 to 85 mile an hour guy. So typically you don't think about throwing fastballs high, right, but kind of flip that on its head, right? And hitters don't think you're going to do that. So let's go do it, right? And see what happens. Right. He's been really, really fun to work with from that aspect, but great kid and kind of quiet. He's one of those that kind of stays to himself. But we have this deal from a team standpoint where our coach always asks Coach Weisberg about being a foxhole guy, right? A guy that would get in the foxhole with you, that would fight to the end, all those things. And Drake was actually voted in the fall as one of our foxhole guys. So he is an old school dirtbag grinder. He's a really good one.
Geoffrey, everything you just described about all that sounds exactly like you when you were pitching.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I like him so much.
I mean, seriously. I mean, yeah. I was just refreshing on some of your stats earlier. Like, I mean, 1 or 2 walks a game, if that.
Yeah.
You threw strikes, you got people out, you knew how to pitch. It's just like you're teaching your guy. So
right.
That's great.
And so I mentioned I dug in your bio a little bit, Geoffrey. So I think we kind of covered you guys getting into the series, and certainly we're going to be watching that with as closely or more closely for me than even the Alabama series this weekend. All right, I pulled your bio from the Gateway Grizzlies of the Independent League. That's still out there on the website. And something caught my attention that I then had to do a little research on. Bramblett played football at Locust Fork High School. So you played there a couple of years. Did you guys move to Hoover later in your high school?
I was at Hoover first, ended up going to Locust Fork after, and then back to Hoover my senior year. But my part of my sophomore year, my junior year, and then part of my senior year there in the middle, I was at Locust Fork.
Okay. All right. So you played football there, a quarterback. All right. All right, guys, the panel here. Tell me the most yards that Geoffrey Bramblett threw for in a high school football game.
570.
How many?
570.
You're close, but you're a little bit high.
Maybe that was offense. There was a lot.
If that's a little bit high, I'm going to say like 435.
Well, you're way low. Megan, what you got? You go in the middle. You'll be about right.
I mean, I guess 500's in the middle of that somewhere.
So, yeah, here you go. He threw for 500. A junior. He's a junior in 2012. He throws for 529 yards in a game against Cleburne County. At the time, it was the fourth highest game total in Alabama history. I pulled that, and of course, I got to dig on all these. I think it is now the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the seventh highest game total in Alabama high school football history. 1 yard ahead of Brody Croyle's highest game, by the way, who had a cup of coffee in the NFL. I go down that list. A few further down, I see Talia Tagovailoa, Mark Jennings, and a few names you might recognize. You also threw for 423. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
In the 2012 season, 423 against Sardis. The interesting thing in the game against Cleburne County, do you remember the score of that game?
70-40.
Yeah, you lost.
Yeah, I do remember.
So here we go. We got a great pitcher, but also and Locust Fork is what 2A, 3A.
They were 4A at the time. I think they're 2A now.
2A now. Okay, so
yeah.
You never know what you're going to get in those games. You might get the wing tee, and you might get the Mouse Davis spread.
Yep.
But I found that really interesting. And then I wanted to touch on 3 games in particular at Alabama during your career there that we want to talk about. First, fitting, since we're going there again this weekend, the 2014 Tallahassee Regional. Talk about the game you threw there in the elimination game on Sunday.
It's kind of a blur because it does seem like it was a long time ago. But the number one thing I could tell you, it was hot. It was
so hot. So hot.
Roger.
But being in the position we were in, and me being a freshman at that point, and I think I don't know if I knew the magnitude of the situation, but I did know that I was getting a chance to start in a regional. And I think I just wanted to take hold of that and embrace it. And I think I took that mindset a lot of the time as I moved forward in my career at Alabama. It was how can I just be my best today? I'm getting to wear the A. I'm getting to put this jersey on. How can I take advantage of it and be my best right now? And I don't know details of that game. I know I went the complete game. I don't know how much strikeouts I had. I don't know how many walks I had. I just know that I loved getting to put the A on and compete in a regional.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can tell you a few of those. You shoved that day, to put it mildly. Complete game, which we don't see anymore. Nobody does complete games. 10 years ago, we never see complete games. Let's see, you allowed 2 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, which we love seeing that. We hate the freebies. At one point during the game, you retired 14 straight batters. 18 of the first 19 that you faced in the game, you retired. So the first 6 innings, 1 guy on base. So we get the win that day, or we get the win probably that morning or early afternoon against Georgia Southern. Florida State's got knocked out, and we're 1 game away from the Supers against Kennesaw State, and then it all went wrong that night. Right?
Well, I got to give props. I think Taylor Gilbo came back and threw a complete game as well right after me.
Sure did. Yeah.
In that first game against Kennesaw, and then we had to beat him that second time.
Yeah.
Gilbo, and then Gilbo got called in for random drug testing, and it took him like 6 hours to urinate because he was so hot and he was so dehydrated. And he weighed like 150 pounds. I mean,
yeah, he was too thick. He was too
you
thick.
know, 6'4", 150. I mean, to have 2 shutouts like that and I mean, complete games like that was incredible.
Yeah. First game I would bring up the second that I found. I mean, and again, you pitched a lot of games at Alabama over 3 years, but the SEC tournament opener in 2015 against Ole Miss. Talk about that one a little bit.
That was another big one because number one, I'm from Hoover, right? I'm a Hoover Buck. Went to high school there, graduated from there. A lot of family around this area in Birmingham. So I called it home for so long, and then that 2015 season, getting to play the entire year there, was not expecting that, right? But certainly enjoyed it. But growing up as a kid, and this was the thing that made me fall in love with Alabama baseball was seeing the the Crimson Pinstripes in Hoover, and I loved it. I was enamored by it, and I'm a 12-year-old kid going to the tournament, and I see guys like just a few years before me, right? But like Taylor Dugas, Nathan Kilcrease, and those guys, and it's like that's what I want to do. And when I got the chance to pitch in the tournament, not that I made it bigger than it was or anything like that, but it was, to me, it was big, right? It was a chance to pitch in Hoover, a place that I always dreamed of getting to pitch at. And again, I can't tell you all the numbers there. I know I threw the complete game and certainly against a really good team in Ole Miss, but my goal was just to do my best once again where I was at.
Drew, so it sounds like Geoffrey was one of the feral children of Hoover on the Hill over there.
You know, the funny thing I remember, that was the year I covered Alabama, and I want to say I did a story on Geoffrey before that game, if AL.com didn't delete all the stuff I wrote nowadays. But what I remember was Saturday you guys were playing Vanderbilt, and they had won the first 2, and it was basically looking at possible winner or not, or miss the tournament. I was down the field before the game. I can't remember why. I want to say maybe Avery Johnson was throwing the first pitch, and I was going to talk to him. But Gaspard comes up to me. You guys had clinched the berth because somebody else had won or lost. So that game didn't really matter. And so I asked him what he's going to do. He said he's going to pitch you. He's going to start you in that game and pitch you an inning because you were already warming up, and then just pitch the rest of the guys. And then so that's what happened. And then do you remember the rest of that game?
I do. I ended up giving a hit up to Roe Coleman. I know he struck out Dansby Swanson. I want to say I got I think it was maybe Xander Wheel.
Yeah. He was on that team,
I think I got him to pop up to end the inning. I don't know if I faced Brian Reynolds that inning or not. Of course, I think he's in the big leagues now with the Pirates. But I do remember a couple of those, especially that one. Obviously, if you strike out the #1 overall pick, like that's something.
And you guys won that game. I think it was 1 or 2 to nothing. Maybe it was 1-0.
I think it was. Was it Alex Watkins that threw a lot?
Yeah, and was it Will Carter and Alex Watkins?
Carter, yeah.
And then I want to say, I haven't looked this up, but I think the losing pitcher in that game was Walker Buehler, who
another name.
I believe it was some kind. They had that guy Jeremy. Carson Fulmer was their guy, and he struck out like 14 guys every Friday night, and then they had some big pitcher on their Saturday too. Can't remember who that was, but that was a pretty exciting experience, I know, for you guys, and just to kind of see it. It's hard to believe that was.
Is it 9 years ago now?
10 years ago. So
I still feel like I'm 18, like I should still be doing it.
And so in this whole. Yeah, me too. Yeah, this Ole Miss game, you again go complete game, in which we just don't see anymore 9-inning complete games hardly. You scatter 9 hits, which you can do when you don't walk guys, and you didn't walk a soul that day, and which we really need back on our team right now. You struck out 10. You get 9 flyouts, you get 7 ground outs. I mean, just a great game. We win that game 6-1. Over Ole Miss, and then ultimately get further into the tournament. I think we end up getting rocked by Vanderbilt on the last day of that tournament. Don't make the regionals. And the last one I want to bring up, because this is a kind of cool, because it's a little segue into Alabama baseball today. Is you started the opener at the New Joe on February 19th, 2016, against Maryland, and Anthony Papio was a player on that team.
Yeah.
Coach Vaughn was a coach on that team. What do you remember about that night?
I remember honestly how special it was, right? You sense obviously like the pride that I think I take in Alabama baseball and getting to be a part of this tradition, the history in this team, and to get to do something like that, right? A staple in the timeline of our history. I get to throw the first pitch in this place was cool, and seeing your background there is the neatest thing, because there's a picture that came out, and it honestly might be the same one, but it was almost back where Coliseum is at night, and you could see the lights, and it was looking at the Joe from this angle. That's a picture I hold in my head pretty closely. It's something that I won't forget. But getting to do that was awesome. It was an incredible experience, and even more so that we won and we took the series from a top 10 opponent. I mean, it was a really, really good way to start the season. And but no, to me, it was just a special time, a special moment, and a blessing in itself.
Yeah, Roger, you were there that night. Drew,
yeah. We had a ceremony. Since I was on the stadium committee, we were all down on the field for the first pitch. Bill Battle, and then all our committee, and that was Maryland had that first round, or that guy that was supposed to be so good pitching.
Yep. Mike Schwarren was his name.
Yep, Mike Schwarren. Yep.
And then CT hit 2 home runs, I think, in that game.
Yep.
His first game as a Tide player.
Yeah. Hit one and had a double.
Yeah. Okay, he hit 2 in the series then.
Yep.
Yeah. But I guess I think it seems like maybe his first at bat, or at some point. I know it was his first game he hit the home run. So yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, another really cool part about that game, and I don't know if you have numbers there in front of you if you'd be able to see this, but Gene Wood, left-handed hitter, was a freshman. He led off that game. I don't know if it was an 8-pitch at bat, a 9-pitch at bat. It seemed like it was forever. I think he may have struck out, but it ended up being a 10-pitch at bat. And we're going crazy in the dugout, right? You got a potential first round pickup, and a freshman in the box and fighting against him like that. I think that just showed that tenacity and toughness that we have with that team.
Running his pitch count up, and he struck out 3 times that night. But like you say, you'll take a strikeout if you run a guy's pitch count up 10, right?
No doubt.
50 attendance was 58-67, probably still a record at the Joe, unless we broke it in the regionals last year. I don't know for sure, but very memorable. You went 5 1/3 that night. John Keller came in behind you and got the all-important pitcher win. Thomas Burrows had to say, Matt Foster threw an inning. You gave up 3 hits. You walked 4. You were a little bit wild that night, Geoffrey.
Must have been.
Yeah, hit a couple of guys. So, we can feel it. We've been seeing that this year with this team. But struck out 6. And again, a very special night at the Joe. And I know, Roger, you guys have put all the work into making that thing happen. I don't know if you may not have had a chance to be down at the regional last year or not, but Roger, you can speak to it. I mean, it kind of felt like that was kind of the crowning achievement of that part. That's why you did that part.
Yeah. Exactly. It just took longer to get into it.
Longer to get
it than we had hoped. But
yeah.
It felt like 2006, except it did feel like 2017 because of it being the new park.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. All right. So great. We've got your history down. Let's transition to Alabama. We get the 2 seed in Tallahassee. We're going to play Central Florida on Friday. Let me go back to the end of my notes. That game is at 5:00 Central on Friday. We'll play UCF. We're the 2. They're the 3. You got Florida State, and you've got Stetson in the 4 hole there. The Eric Fago revenge weekend, perhaps. So, Drew, you think? Some interesting side notes. Of course, we didn't play Florida State during the year. We didn't play UCF or Stetson either, but we saw Florida State in the fall on a Saturday, one of the fall week. Megan, you remember that weekend? Much about that weekend?
Yeah, 14 innings. I think we split.
I think we did.
Games. Yeah. I mean, they have 2 of our former guys on their team with Jackson West and Max Williamson.
Both contributing, by the way.
Max really has lately.
Yeah.
He's up to 290 with 9 home runs. Getting playing time right now.
Yeah. Jackson caught I was watching because they were the first game on in the day Sunday. It was that early game with Duke, and Jackson was catching that day. And of course, Max seems like he's in the lineup most every day. I seem to recall we just our frontline guys played their frontline guys in the first half, and then we kind of put the subs in the back end.
Bryce Eblin hit the 3-run home run in the bottom of the 5th or the 6th or whatever, and that's what that's won it for us. And I don't know, we started Hess, and their big guy, I think his name's Tibbs, hit a home run off of him in that first inning.
Took him out. Yeah, I was walking up.
Can't remember much about that, who pitched when, but I mean, they looked like a very good team. I mean,
Hess just threw 1 inning too. That was
it was one of the first. It's the first time we had seen him.
Right. This is our first back-to-back appearance in regional since the 2014 team you were on, Geoffrey. The 13 team, 14 team, both made appearances in regionals. So this is the first time that we're back-to-back years. Let me see. I lost my spot here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what I was going to say. So, all right. So we get the two. Again, we can touch on that South Carolina game and in the single elimination round in Hoover the other day.
We can skip it. We're fine.
I mean, it was one of those days. I think
miserable.
Us
it wasn't our day.
No, us making a deep run in that tournament with the condition of our pitching staff. I don't think was going to happen. So if I'd have told you on, I don't know, Sunday after the Auburn series, hey, you guys can stay home, still get a 2 seed, and not even go to Hoover, would you have taken it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we were all thinking we were going to get a low 3 seed. So the fact that we got a 2, I'm still shocked by it.
Yeah, Geoffrey. I mean, you kind of get that feel. I mean, there's a lot to be gained in those tournaments sometimes, but then again, sometimes there's not. It's kind of hard to figure out what the committee was thinking this year.
Yeah, well, the for me, getting to play in the tournament, like I think a lot of these guys, especially the younger guys, just getting to be there in that environment. I mean, most of those games, at least the ones that I watched, I mean, you're looking at 10, 12, 13,000 people a game. Yeah. Incredible environment, right? I mean, that thing is awesome in Hoover. It always has been. It's only getting better, right? So on that front, I would say they need to be there. They need to experience it. They need to be a part of it. Right. But on the flip side of that, it's like, hey, we could take a day off, rest some arms, get our feet under us, and still be a 2 seed. Then you'd probably take that.
Right. So that's 36. 27, 36 innings. We probably didn't have to pitch with a lot of tired guys. A lot of guys that are really only 2 or 3 weeks out from that bad bout with food poisoning. Drew, your thoughts? I mean, get in the weight room, get your nutrition back, sleep in your own bed, work out.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was at the game, and I took a half day of vacation. So I took 16 vacation hours to watch Tide baseball this year, and they lost all 3 of those games. But
A&M doubleheader, right?
The A&M doubleheader in this one, but it was fun. I love the SEC tournament, and it was just one of those where Geoffrey, you would play in a million games like this where it's like you hit 2 or 3 of their pitchers. Yeah. And then they finally find a pitcher who just has it absolutely working.
And just shoves. Yeah.
This guy, and he was just throwing like these 73-mile-an-hour changeups, and we just couldn't do anything with it. So it was a very frustrating game of last 6 innings of baseball. Reminded me a lot of like the UAB game in Tuscaloosa. We just got 1 hit the last 8 innings. But they had some guys who were really they were hitting the ball like they knew what was coming. So, but hey, I mean, like you said, I'm really shocked that we got a 2 seed. So happy about that. And it's almost like that game just doesn't really matter. You just got some guys some work and relax a little bit and go play some ball. So hopefully they'll have basketball and softball finished up the regular season. Not very strong. Baseball, not so much, but maybe they can have the same run of good fortune in the postseason.
Roger, you were out of practice today. I mean, you look rested, recovered. Everybody looked like they were full to go.
They were doing a little. They did some drills and stuff, and then they did a little game with Mikey. Mikey pitched for both teams. From 40 feet behind the screen.
Yeah, from the screen.
So they did a little game. Everything's a competition. I mean, they were really competitive about it. I think it was 19-17 or something. But, and then and they were doing situational. Like they might get 3 out, and then Rob would say, "Okay, second, third, no outs," or they'd keep going for a little. So just staying loose,
game situation.
Get a little BP, a little, and obviously some in and out and some PFP and stuff like that. So they just kind of going over it. And actually, they're going back out at 9 in the morning, and they're going to leave at 12.
Okay,
But,
so they're heading down tomorrow. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they leave at 12 tomorrow. So
all right. I threw this out as a poll from at Weekly Joe Pod on Twitter this week, which thousands of followers responded to this question. Who do you throw in game one? Do you go, so here's our rotation has been Friday, Ferrone Friday, Adams Saturday, Hess Sunday. Hess in the last 3 games, I think I tweeted out in one of the, we won 13 conference games, and Hess won 3 of them in a matter of about 11 days down the stretch. There was real key for us. So Hess to me feels like our Friday guy now, right? It just the way the order was, you couldn't flip it. What do you guys think? I mean, we kind of got it from Geoffrey. I think you weighed in. You go with your big gun on Friday, right?
Especially if he's the hot hand. That's the way I'd go.
Yeah, Drew, what's your thought?
Yeah, I think he is the big gun, but he's also been the hot hand lately of the 3. And also, you pitch this game as if you're going to win and as if you're going to face Florida State the next day. So maybe, gosh, I don't know much about these teams, but it seemed like Florida State had some really good left-handed bats. So maybe
they do.
Maybe you want to throw a guy like Ferrone or Adams at them in game 2, but you got to get good Hess, and I think they will. I really think he's going to be kind of an X factor for him.
Yeah, Roger, your thought?
I like that plan.
Like
Hess, okay. and then Greg for the lefties, but also like you were saying, the last 3 games, Ben's been spot on. Even when he was sick in starting with that,
right?
His last starts he's been what he's capable of.
What we expected, yeah.
Right.
Because he had been walking guys, and we've talked about it a lot. And Geoffrey, you probably can't follow him as closely. He's found his curveball. His pure curve. He's throwing that 75 to 78 mile an hour curveball. His slider is kind of his waist pitch. See if you can get him to chase. But his curveball is really setting up his fastball. And he's pumping that thing up there 94, 95, 96. And so, I mean, you've seen this before when a guy can get a third pitch like that working, it just does wonders.
No doubt. Offensively, I mean, if hitters can limit you to being a 1-2 pitch guy, but specifically a 1 pitch guy, they're going to hit you a lot, right? But if you can somehow wiggle your way into being a 3 pitch guy, changing speeds, especially for hitters having to gear it for 94, 95, like you said, that's tough, right? Then you throw the good breaking ball in there and changing speeds now. I mean, that's kind of when you have everything working, and you're probably going to be really good if that happens.
Yeah.
He's pumping 98 here and there too.
Yeah, when he gets that grunt going. Yeah, he gets the grunt going, and the Serena Williams grunt. He'll pump it 98. Meghan, you in agreement with the crowd? No conflicting opinion here.
I agree. Interestingly, the results of the poll from the audience does not, with 44% saying we should go with Ferrone for that first game.
Yep, right. The interesting thing to me here, and we saw it based on what we did Tuesday, throwing Ferrone on Tuesday on short rest. What if we get? I mean, again, I think we go Hess. I mean, I think it's almost a no-brainer. You go Hess. You probably go Ferrone against Florida State. Say this scenario, you win, you go Florida State, whether you win or let's say you lose to Florida State. You go Adams in the elimination game on Sunday. All right, we've obviously shown, based on what we did with that Tuesday game, we don't have a hell of a lot of confidence in throwing anyone else kind of as a like a midweek guy in that 4th game. Who do you go that Sunday night if you get to that game? What do you think? And who do you do? And what's the mindset of the coaching staff right now?
Well, that one, and then win that one. Then you got to figure it out the next day too.
That's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah,
you got to stay in the winners bracket. I mean, Snell. It seems like it almost have to be Cade. Being the 4th guy, unless Braylon's been so good out of the pen.
Yeah.
That do you need him there, or you could. If you don't have to use AD, stretch him up, go 3 or, he's gone 3.
See if he can get you 75 pitches, maybe kind of like LSU did Sunday with their guy. I can help.
Yeah. But
or the same idea of like, if we don't use Aiden, he's been in that starter role.
Right. He's done
it very early this season, but if we're needing guys, I guess would be an option as well.
Right. Drew, do we have a snowball's chance of hell of winning this regional unless we go 3-0?
I think we have the chances are a lot lower just because, like you said, the pitching, I think it's difficult for any team to win a regional if you don't win those first two games. I mean, if you lose the third one and then you're only playing a fourth, well, you're still probably in decent shape, but it's you just kind of have to hope that you win a game by 8, and then if you lose a game, then you lose it by 8. But I like what 2010 when we beat Georgia Tech in the regionals, Gaspar just basically said after they lost to Tech, like, we're going to hold Adam Morgan for that first game against Tech. We have to beat Mercer with Tucker Hawley and somebody else. Jason Townsend. Townsend might have been the guy's name.
Jason Townsend.
Yeah, I think those guys pitched, and they did, and then they won the next two. So
Peanut threw 300 pitches.
That's true. We're not. Yeah, I don't think that won't happen. But
he threw a 10-inning complete game, and then came in the fourth and threw 7 innings.
Yeah. That doesn't happen anymore. But you'd have to have some heroic performance by somebody. But I kind of think
he'd go out there this weekend and do it again for us if we let him.
All right. Geoffrey, do you break out in hives thinking about your situation there and having to go over a 5 or 6 day period, maybe getting into a loser bracket, coming back and trying to figure out what I do for my arms?
I mean, you do, but you don't, especially for me being my first year. I honestly would welcome that adversity because I want to see how I'd handle it, honestly. Do I want it for our team? No. But at the same time for myself, like, let's try and piece it together and figure it out and try and get these guys in the right frame of mind to even guys that may only have 10, 15, 20 innings on the year. They may not have 60, right? Can those guys rise to the occasion and go get the job done? That's kind of the fun part of coaching to me. So on the team side, no, I would not want to deal with that. But at the same time, if it were to happen, I think it would be a fun and healthy challenge. And I mean, just cap off the entire story, right, of everything that's going on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It would, you bring in some guy that's thrown 6 innings all year and he throws a complete game in the D3 championship game. I'm telling you, if this happens, somebody in Hollywood's going to pay the $30 million or whatever the college needs, and they're going to be right back there in the fall. I mean, it really, I think it.
I wouldn't be upset at that.
I think
that's you were talking about the Jim Wells SEC tournament plan. Some guy that nobody's ever heard of that threw 3 innings comes in and throws a complete game. Drew, you remember those guys?
It was Jeremy Vaughn. Yeah, I mean. It'd be like throwing Ariston Veazey out there, who's pitched 2 batters all season long and walked both of them.
And walked them back.
Yeah, I think your kind of heroic situation in this case would probably be if a guy like Moza comes in and just throws like a complete game. As many struggles as he's had this year. Because I still believe he's got it.
Absolutely. He's got the stuff. Absolutely.
This has been the most perplexed I've ever been. And Geoffrey, you're a pitcher and a pitcher coach. I mean, this kid throws 94, 96. I don't know how much you've been able to pay attention this year, but what do you think the biggest why does a guy this talented have an ERA that's like 10 right now?
That's a great question. Number one would be confidence. I think that's kind of the first catch-all. But if you look at a guy that and I haven't paid attention a ton, I know he's got a really good breaking ball. I think he probably uses it a lot, maybe a little too much at times. But there is something to be said for having too much confidence in the breaking ball, right? Hitters are really good and continuing to get better. So, they can gear up for 94, 95. And if you're not in the zone enough, all they're going to do is sit on the slider, right? So no matter how good it is, a good hitter can hit a good slider if they know it's coming. So I think that probably – to me, not knowing all the situation, the details and variables at play, that would be what I would say. But at the end of the day, it's confidence, it's conviction, it's trust in your stuff, and then it's using your arsenal the right way, right? If you are 94, 96, but you're only using your fastball, 30% of the time, something's going on there, in my opinion, right? So that's really all I can speak on it because I don't know the details enough.
Well, and here's a little more to that. Last year, he was hurt early, and he came on late. Was lights out.
He was lights out by the end of the year.
Eighth inning guy, AD in the ninth, and down the stretch he was untouchable.
Yeah.
This fall, they let him in spring practice. He competed and won one of the weekend starting roles, and he lasted 3 weeks doing that and got hit pretty hard. Yeah. But it's gotten worse gradually, and then he's had some really good spots where he closed out against Tennessee to win the game, and then
which looks like a really good win now, doesn't it?
Right. And, you know, and I think it's kind of like they hadn't figured out his role, or he hadn't figured out his role.
Right.
And probably maybe like you said, the lack of confidence from not keeping the starting spot. I don't know. I mean, it could be any number of that, but it's not like you can say, oh gosh, his fastball's lost 8 miles. You know, his arms hurt because he's not throwing 94, he's throwing 86. But it's not that. So anyway, he's got great stuff, and he
really does. Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of guys like that just hadn't had command at times. Geoffrey, the thing that drives us crazy, and I'm sure you as a pitching coach, is the number of extra base hits and home runs and just, you know, loud contact we've given up on 0-2 pitches and 1-2 pitches, guys ahead in the count, and just don't take advantage of it. How do you, I mean, how much of that is just mental and just missing spots, or I mean, that
we talk all the time about pitch execution over pitch selection, right? The selection is really important, what you're throwing, but then where you throw it, how you execute it is that much more important, right? So oftentimes at that level, with how good hitters are, it is the selection, right? We just throw the wrong pitch at the wrong time. But the majority of the time, right, it's the lack of the execution. It's I am 0-2, 1-2, so I need to expand a little bit, get something out of my hand that looks like a strike and then isn't a strike when it gets there. We'd probably just miss a little bit too much middle. And for those hitters, even if it's down, right, even if it is away, if it's any plate, it's getting hit hard. So I think you got to go to the execution side of it. And if I'm 0-2, 1-2, I can't give you anything that you can barrel.
No.
And I think it's guys understanding where that is, right? That doesn't mean you bounce the breaking ball at 50 feet, right? You can't just throw it in the dirt every time. But can you bounce on the plate, right? So maybe you don't get the swing and miss, but you might get the rollover ground ball at a 6-hole or something like that.
I think if our pitchers had been able to execute what you just talked about there, we'd have about 5 more wins this year. we feel that way anyway.
Pitching is really simple, right? I think we overcomplicate it way too much, and we try and do too much with it and overthink things. But at the end of the day, if you trust the pitch you're throwing, you have conviction in it, and then you go execute it, you're at least going to give yourself a chance, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Sometimes if we lack confidence, we don't pitch like that.
Yeah. All right. And our bullpen, we touched on it a little bit. We had a little thread in one of these text streams. I don't know if everybody was in this one or not, but about your bullpen trust levels. Let's see. There are, Roger, I got yours here, I think somewhere. Let's see. Let's see. You probably had Myers, Heiberger, AD 2, then Fay, then Morris, then Buchanan, then Probst, then Snell, then George, then Moza, top to bottom for the bullpen. That sound about right? I mean, but
some of those were sort of role too, but basically, you know, kind of like who has performed best over the last couple of 2 or 3 weeks.
The problem has been the consistency from, like, if that was 1 to 10, 2 to 9 has just been jumbled up all year for us, and it's been really hard to get a gauge on and getting, like you mentioned, getting rolls. And Meghan, I mean, your thoughts on that? Do you feel like the down week will maybe help these guys reset a little bit?
I think it has to. I mean, there's no beating around it. It's you win, you keep going. You're going to summer ball. So law of averages says it should swing back in our favor, and that, like, some of these guys who've had kind of rough outings over and over, like, I want to think that they're going to pick it up, and hopefully we're going to have somebody come in and really surprise us and just be like, okay, you're doing what we expected, because I think all of those guys, like, at least personally, I've had high expectations for all year because I know how good they are. Right. Just can you step up in the moment and execute? And I don't know who it's going to be, but I think we're going to have somebody who kind of fills that spot that we're like, okay, that's who we're talking about next week.
Yeah, Drew, who do you if you're going to pick one guy of our pen that makes a impact this weekend, who do you got?
I mean, I probably I keep jumping on the Moza train. I've been believing in him all year, and it just hasn't worked out for a lot of times. So if we get into a loser's bracket role, I think it's going to be him. Yeah. But my hope is that really Hess just gives us 7 strong. We win 9-2 on Friday and pitch somebody an inning each, and then just go from there. You'd like to see Faye come back strong. I'm not really sure what his deal is lately. He's kind of fallen off a bit. Morris has pitched really well lately, and then Braylon Myers has just been in roles where he's just been the most consistent. Now I don't know how his stuff plays against that Florida State team in that particular ballpark, but we're probably going to find out.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about our bats that much. I mean, again, I think hitting has not been the issue, right? I mean, we've tended to be able to score runs, and if we could just hold leads and get some solid performances from the lineup. Again, same from the bullpen. The lineup, though, again, you've got to have more than 3 guys hot this weekend, right? You got to have you got 5 or 6 of those guys hot if you're going to make a run. Any tweaks you'd make? You think you see Evelyn back in there?
Yes, I do.
You do.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last, I guess it was South Carolina he was back in. I mean, he made that one play that is just like that's why you got to play, if nothing else.
Defensively, defensively. I mean, the defense was a disaster down the stretch. And even in the Auburn game we won, the 4-error game, I think you got to feel like you got to have your best gloves out there while your pitchers are hitting guys and walking guys and that sort of thing. You got to have a way we can't overcome 4 errors in any of these games this weekend. Yep. A little bit about our opponents this weekend. UCF, they're 15-14 in the Big 12. They did in the tournament. They had a nice little run. They must have had a single elimination tournament. They beat Cincinnati in 11 on the first night, which probably ended up being a bubble game because they got in and Cincinnati didn't. And I think both were, kind of right there on the verge. They beat Oklahoma State, which is a big win. That's a regional host for you. Well, it wasn't a single elimination because they lost to them the next day. 10-1 in the semis. That tells me a UCF team, probably, a team that Geoffrey, and you've seen this in some of you guys' games. I mean, you get to that Sunday game and nobody's got arms left. I mean, maybe that's what you got with UCF. It's a team that can outlast you, but you get a couple extra inning games like that, and they've thrown 3 extras. It's hard for them to make it through a weekend. Just strategy around that for a week.
No doubt. That's a tough place to be, especially when going in that you got to play clean up front, and if you do get into a 12, 13 inning game or something like that, or God forbid an injury or anything like that, right? Who knows what can happen in the game these days? That it kind of puts you behind the 8 ball going to that last game.
Yeah. Florida State is 42-15 on the year. I don't have anything on Stetson, but we'll get to them if we have to. They're 42-15, 17-12 in the ACC, which ended up being a good league. I don't know if they ended up with a good number of hosts, and I don't know if you watched that Duke game against Florida State the other day, but they just clocked those guys. And I'm picking Duke I'm always penciling them in from that Oklahoma regional, kind of hopefully, because if that happens, and we win our regional, we might be playing at the Joe the next week.
A good chance. Yes.
Because of their park situation. Here's the bad news on Florida State. They're 27-4 at home. We are not a very good road team. I think that's being kind. We haven't been this year. But Florida State just had a long run through that tournament. They beat Georgia Tech. They beat Virginia. They beat Wake. All 3 teams that made regionals, and one of them is a host in that tourney before they got clocked by Duke on Sunday. They were just out of arms. I think they came in like 16-4 or something like that. So now the thing I wanted to point out, and I think Meghan, you sent it to me. Speak to this about the rating of these regionals, and kind of there was a service, or one of these accounts tweeted out, the top regionals where the 2s and the highest ranked teams, or the hardest regionals beyond the 1 seed. And I think we were one of the top 3 in that, right?
Yeah, so it's the toughest regional by average power rating of the non-host. We are second at 0.652, right under Arizona, which I think Arizona was one where everyone was kind of shocked that they were hosting. So I think that kind of
they're not going to win that
hand
regional.
in hand.
There's no way in
No.
hell that we win in that regional.
Wouldn't think.
Yeah. So go ahead, Megan. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, we're second in that one. Clemson right below at 0.569. Santa Barbara, Eastern Carolina, Oregon State, Kentucky, Georgia, Oklahoma, North Carolina. Nope. Nope.
Yep.
Raleigh. Who's in Raleigh?
Yeah.
North Carolina
Carolina State.
Yeah.
Good team.
Yeah. OK State, Tennessee, Arkansas, Virginia, UNC, and then Texas A&M is coming in at 16.
Yeah. So they're
which
basically
I
saying
think it's
Texas A&M is going to walk through theirs, is what they're saying, basically.
apparently that has to do though their 4 seed is really skewing the number because apparently the worst 4 seed because they do have Texas in that regional, so I think that one might be one to watch just to see if Texas and Texas A&M match up day 2, who comes out of that one.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So again, I mean, it's winnable from the on paper, very winnable, at least the experts on paper would say. 11 SEC teams got in. You got surprised at that? Florida was kind of the only one on the bubble. Really, when it came right down to it, you surprised?
I think when we started seeing, go ahead, Roger.
No, I was surprised Florida made it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Florida made it. Troy did not. TCU did not. Cincinnati did not. I mean, a couple other, kind of last 4 out type things. Go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think when we started seeing SEC teams that we thought were going to be 3 seeds as 2 seeds, it was kind of a given that it was going to be 11. And kind of what we talked about last week about like, okay, maybe these conference tournaments really aren't mattering as much to the committee, and that like the RPI, the KPI, that stuff is getting factored in as much, and also who's in the room. I mean, we've been hearing people on Twitter saying it for the last, I guess, 24 hours now, of like all these people who got in that you're kind of questioning, or got a host that you're questioning, probably had somebody in that room that was making the decision.
Right.
And they
Coastal
did.
Carolina being one of them.
Every one of them did.
Yeah.
Our ex whatever athletic director John Gilbert, Eastern Carolina.
Yeah.
He got them a host job.
He got him a host, which, and again, Mississippi State did not get a host, and probably, is playing as well as just about anyone in the country. 16 hosts. I threw this out as a poll. I don't remember what the consensus was. Last year, 9 of the 16 hosts went to the Supers. How many you got this year? And I use an over. I look at these and I'm like, man, there's 9 or 10 of these that are iffy. What's everybody think? How many? Geoffrey, I don't know if you're following this enough. You got other things on your mind.
Here and there, a little bit.
Yeah. But Drew, you got a thought on that?
I haven't really. I'm going to wait until I get home tomorrow to really kind of break this down. I know our good friend John Chumbler at JON Chumbler does a monster bracket challenge.
Yeah.
D1baseball.com does one too. So I'm going to just sit back and fill one out when I get home. I'd say 9, 10 probably sounds right. I think there's going to be some good. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm glad we play at 5 Central on Friday, and just looking forward to just sitting and watching. It's like the NCAA basketball tournament for me. I love to just sit there and watch it all day Friday.
Roger, you think we get carnage in this first round?
I'd say 10.
10 get through. 10. Megan, how many you think? You going lower?
I'm going to agree with the results of the poll, and I think it's what I voted on too. Is I think it'll be 8.
8. So half of them. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Geoffrey, I mean, again, you may not even know who the 16 hosts are right now. Any particular team you think? If you had to just pick one of the, I mean, obviously these SEC teams, or anyone in particular you think you pick as a favorite to win the whole thing?
Nobody in particular outside of just watching Arkansas and Tennessee play. It's tough to argue top to bottom, lineup wise and staff wise. I mean, they're about as deep as anybody goes, right? So if I had to put any money anywhere, I'd probably go there with it. Not that I'm a betting man, but and then I haven't kept up quite enough, but I have watched both of them play a good bit.
Right. And I will say this, because things happen on this podcast, and my memory gets a little foggy sometimes, but I think last week one of our panelists, when asked which team kind of out of the field was going to make a deep run into the tournament or most likely to do it. She said LSU. And that certainly came to fruition with the run through Sunday. Anybody
remember that?
I think it was
Roger or Meghan. Do you remember that?
I don't think I remember that at all, Drew.
The guy without any hair, I think.
and again, I go back to, and the reason they said this was those two starters. You go Gage Jump, Luke Holman. I mean, just about anyone in the country, if you took Gage Jump, Luke Holman, put them on their staff on Friday and Saturday, they're going to be sitting pretty Sunday night, ready to win a regional. I mean, and Geoffrey, you know this. I mean, if you got two dogs out there, you got two arms like that, your chances in this sort of situation are that much elevated.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, you look at starting pitching in general, I think, like you guys talked about earlier, not too many guys are going 7+ these days, right? It's a small number. So if you can have some donkeys, so to speak, that you can ride into the 7th and 8th every time out there, I mean, you're in a good place.
Right. And that's exactly what LSU did on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then just managed to kind of carry it through the weekend. And really, didn't lose a game until Sunday, until Tennessee kind of caught up with it. And again, it's kind of rigged in favor of the teams that get the bye. I mean, we kind of did you got the top 4, you got the field, and everybody went top 4. Most of the top 4 kind of fizzled out, but good run by LSU. I think they're going to make that kind of a run again. I think they'll definitely win their regional. I don't know, but I have to see who they're paired up with their super. All right, here we go.
LSU's paired up with the Arizona regional.
With Arizona, yeah.
So if they were to end up hosting a super, I think LSU's going to Omaha.
Yeah, I think these guys have a path. These guys got a path to the College World Series after being 3-12 in their first 15 games in the conference season. I mean, I think that's. I don't think I'm crazy for saying that. I'm still real high on LSU right now. All right, everybody's favorite.
Despite what Keith Law thinks, neither one of their arms fell off either, did it?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for throwing on a day short rest, right? All right, our favorite portion of the program every week. The great Mark Jennings, the best in the business, and his player comparisons. Again, thanks to Token Barner Evelyn and coordinate with Drew on getting Mark to respond. Mark doesn't return my calls these days, as we've talked about. He's still bitter about some things I tweeted about the Birmingham Iron back in 2019. But anyway, Drew, you've been in touch with Mark this week, and I think you got 4 player comparisons this week that we want to go through.
Yeah.
You
One
ready?
of them is with Geoffrey. We'll get to his whatever order you want.
All right. Let's start with modern day players here. Not that Geoffrey was from the dead ball era or anything, or the 27 Yankees. Will Portera, Drew, utility infielder for the Crimson Tide. Who does Mark compare Will Portera to?
Yeah, and Mark Jennings 55. He's got a lot of really good player comps, and Will is a 5'10", I guess, switch hitting middle infielder, utility player, right-handed thrower. This guy played a lot in the 80s and 90s, in mostly National League. Does anybody have any guesses here?
Jeff Treadway, Drew?
No. And Geoffrey, feel free to jump in if you have a guess as well. But Roger, Meghan,
which league?
Which league?
Mostly in the National. That's what I remember him.
Okay.
And you said the 80s?
Late 80s, early 90s. At least according to this baseball card. I can't remember how deep his career went after 1993, but
Manny Trejo?
No, I think he's a little too old for that.
A little bit older.
But you're on the right track, nationality wise.
Denny Doyle?
No.
Now you're going the wrong way.
So Hispanic player. Rennie Stenson.
No.
Good guess. Very good guess. Rafael Belliard, Drew?
No. All right, here we go. Right. Can you see it?
Is that you got to raise it up a little bit? Is that Omar Vizquel, Drew?
Nope.
No.
You see it?
No.
It's Jose Oquendo.
Jose Oquendo, Drew. Yeah. I remember Jose Oquendo.
Everybody remembers Jose Oquendo.
Yeah, that's a good comparison by Mark. I think he's right on with that one. That's great. St. Louis Cardinal in that card. Right, our second comparison, Mason Swinney, kind of utility infielder, plays a little short, plays a little second, right-handed batter, right-handed thrower. Who's Mark compare him to?
This guy played mostly in the 80s for at least one American League team, according to this baseball card. But you may know him more as a manager. He does have a World Series ring, not as a manager, but
not as manager. Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Girard. No, let's see. Wait a minute. I'm thinking of the next guy as a catcher. So not as a manager, but he's got a World Series ring. Man, righty batter, righty. Yeah. Okay.
How's he again?
Nope.
No, he was a lefty, I think, when he batter. He hit lefty.
I think he was a switch hitter.
Not really batter for Mark.
Right. Well, we try to. Mark tells me he tries to make it.
Glenn Hubbard, Drew.
Not Glenn Hubbard. This guy should have a World Series ring as a manager, but he doesn't.
Okay. And he was a middle utility type infielder type guy.
Yeah, I don't remember him much as a player, but you might. Yeah. You and Roger might.
Yeah. I don't know, Drew. I'm stumped. I'm pretty stumped. Ron Washington, Drew.
Ron Washington.
Yeah. Ron Washington was a right-handed batter. Or did he switch?
It says right. That's right. Throws right on here. I don't remember him as a player, but I just got this baseball card. And I was like, oh, this is really good.
My favorite Washington was UL Washington, who always had the toothpick hanging out of his mouth. Yeah. All right. Okay. And Mark's last modern day player comparison. Of course, Mark would butcher this name. He would say like Gwen Garana, but our backup catcher, Cam Garana.
Yeah. So now I'm looking at this card, and there's an error. The word switch is misspelled. So I don't know
That's probably a lot of money for that.
I need to. There might be I think one of the corners is a little. It might not grade very high, but I need to pay a lot. I need to. Yeah, this is some. Anyway, so this guy was just your utility backup catcher. Didn't play a whole lot. Mostly National League, 80s and early 90s.
Joe Nolan, Drew?
No, I think he played a little bit with the Braves. The card I have is not with the Braves.
Okay.
Caroba.
No.
Yeah. He'd been a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah. It's your typical backup catcher.
Yeah.
Not Drew Patera. He's still playing.
Yeah. Of course, wouldn't be Eddie Perez, who was the backup, but he was a right-handed batter, right?
Right.
Yes, it's not Eddie. Honestly, I can't even tell you who the Braves' real everyday catcher was back then.
Yeah,
so I'm having a real struggle with this.
I think he played a little bit with the Braves.
Okay,
yeah. To answer what Mark says, Damon Berryhill.
Damon Berryhill. Yeah, I remember Damon Berryhill, Drew.
And so the word switch is misspelled on this. I don't think you can see it.
Interesting.
I'm gonna have to go put this on eBay for like $1 million.
You might have to cash that in. All right. Yeah. All right. And our last player comparison. All right. First of all, Greg, Geoffrey, I'm sorry. We're you're familiar with Mark Jennings, aren't you? You know Mark, best in the business.
Yeah, for a long time now. Actually, I've really lived my life in a particular way that would probably model his. Quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about, you're involved in sports. You got out in the business world back in. I mean, Mark's a business magnet. With the the Dippin' Dots investments at all the ballparks. I mean, Mark, that's good comparison. Drew,
always be hustling.
Yeah, Drew, who does Mark compare Geoffrey Bramblett to?
Yeah, Geoffrey, how tall are you? Are you about 6'2", 6'3"?
6'3". 6'3".
So this pitcher's 6'3". I'm going to guess when he was in college. What was your pitching weight in college?
Probably like 210.
Really? Okay. So yeah, this guy's probably. I don't know what you look like now, other than what I'm seeing on there. But a little bigger than 210. But I'm sure if you might have pitched this weight as you got a little older. But American League pitcher in the 80s and the 90s. He did throw a no hitter.
No hitter. Okay.
Paulo Colon.
No. He's white. This guy's
what team? What team did he throw the no hitter for? Do you know?
He threw that for a team that is not in the American League anymore.
Okay, so this would be the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yep.
Who are now in the National League.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened in the 80s or the 90s?
I think the no-hitter was in the early 90s.
Early 90s with the Brewers.
Maybe 93.
Oh,
Was
man.
that Alatar, Robin Yount, Cecil Cooper?
Yeah. He also pitched for the Mariners, or the other team he pitched for, and that's who he's on the baseball card.
Oh man, it's too late to be one of the Forshes, Bob or Ken.
Yeah.
And
guy had a pretty decent little career.
Yeah, I said Ron Darling out of the gate. I mean, the resemblance.
Yeah,
Jeffrey,
I got a
Ron Darling is pretty good, but you didn't like that. I don't know, Drew, help us out.
You may recognize this guy. You can barely see the signature.
And they don't even put the name on the front of the card anymore. Is it
the signature is?
Oh, that helps.
Chris Bosio. You guys remember Chris Bosio?
Chris Bosio. Jeffrey,
Yeah.
do you remember Chris Bosio?
I'm going to be honest, I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
Well, I would just say, yeah, that's who Mark compares you to over the course of your career, and I'm sure you guys have talked about that. But as you venture into the next part of your life, he's got some good marital advice for you. I'm sure we can get him on another podcast.
And I just want to ask him about the Dippin' Dots and the venture that he made.
That's right. Yeah. Any advice you could take from Mark on the business world would be well advised to take. All right, I had a couple of your questions real quick. Since hosting a regional never materialized, am I wrong in liking the fact that there are no SEC teams standing in the way of Omaha if Alabama gets hot? This is from Michael Southern. So what do you think about that? We don't have to go through an SEC. We're not paired with another SEC team, which I think sometimes is it's probably not really by design. Maybe the ones don't necessarily pair up. But what do y'all think of that? We're free and clear of SEC teams the rest of the way, apparently. Good thing?
Probably a good thing.
Probably good.
I think it's a good matchup for the Super, because we match up with the Oklahoma regional for Super.
Duke's going to win.
I think Duke will win, and how they've been playing recently. But they also have UConn and Oral Roberts, which Oral Roberts has made some impressive runs in years past. So that could be an interesting regional to watch. But I think it's a good one for us to pair up with, working on the assumption we get out. And I mean, that's what I'm rolling with. So not having an SEC team in our way, I think it's got to help in the long run.
Right. Jeffrey, better to have familiarity with the teams going. I mean, like you sometimes see this in the NCAA basketball tournament where it's like teams are rematched, or they're, as you get further into the tournament, better to just play them cold.
I think at this point, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're playing a team like Tennessee. I mean, they're hitting it seems like every guy in the lineup is, 340 with 18 to 20 homers and OPS through the roof. Right. So you can have every scout report on the sun. If you don't execute, you're going to be in trouble. So I don't think we need to overlook the fact that the ACC is a really good league still too.
Oh yeah.
So
Very
Florida
good.
State, Duke. I mean, there's some good teams there that we'd have to go through as well. But I think for us, and this is again a catch-all, and I say us as Alabama, like if we just go play clean baseball and play the way that we all know we're capable of, I mean, I don't think it matters. We can compete with anybody in the country.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We've shown that. I mean, we ask LSU that, ask Arkansas that, ask
Tennessee. Only SEC
Tennessee.
team that beat Tennessee in a series.
That's right. One other quick question from Andy Shaw. Latest on Pierce George. Roger, you think I mean, again, control issues. I mean, are we a guy like that? Can he make a breakthrough in a weekend?
Well, I mean, if he's healthy, he hasn't been healthy for a number of weeks. So that's been part of his problem. No hippo, but no.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen him pick up a ball.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Also, do we see the pre-injury version of Evelyn after getting some time to rest? Roger, you're out there. I mean, you've seen these guys.
I hope so. It's time for him to turn it around. I think, it doesn't seem like, at times he hadn't seemed like he's been comfortable, for a while, but he had a little streak. He did have a little streak there where he was really hitting the ball well.
Yeah.
but if he should be as well as he's been in a long time.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you basically have gotten, until Friday, that'll have been one game in 13 days.
Right.
So it's pretty good time to get well. All right, predictions real quick. All right, first of all, the Division III World Series starts Friday. Who you got, Megan?
I'm going Birmingham Southern. That's
Damn
all I don't
right.
know those other teams, so that's all I got.
We got him.
Win the whole thing.
Who you got? Roger.
Panthers all the way.
All right, Drew.
Oh, I've got Birmingham Southern with a sweep.
Yeah. Right. Geoffrey, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask you since you're involved in the games. Who have you got?
I'll take ourselves. We're hot right now, so if we're gonna go all the way up there, we might as well win it, right?
Why not? Yeah, why not? Only one thing left to do, so win the damn thing, right? This is right. Yep. All right, fantastic. And then finally, do we get to the Supers, Megan?
Yes.
You do. Roger.
Yes.
Yeah. Drew?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. All right, go ahead, Geoffrey.
I love Coach Vaughn. I love what he's doing. I think they definitely obviously have a chance. They have the talent, right? And he goes the right time. I think so.
You think so? All right. I'm going to be the wet mop here. I just don't think. I think the problem is we get, and I mean, we all know this. If we get into that situation I outlined where we have to go into a fourth game or a fifth game, God forbid, I just don't think we can hold up bullpen wise. We may surprise us. And again, I go back to Florida State being 27-4 at home. I think we're going to make noise. I mean, I don't think we're going to be 2 and done. I don't see us getting out of it, but hopefully next week I'm not eating crow. Hopefully you guys get to crow like I did about the LSU prediction next week on the show. And Geoffrey, hopefully, let's see, by next week, you guys, hopefully you guys are up there through the 5th or 6th.
Yeah, I think the 6th would be the championship game, or at least the last of that 3-game set.
Right. Well, incredible story. First of all,
thank you so much.
Incredible as a guest.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, and then we kept you an hour and a half. You don't have anything else to do, right?
Oh, you're good.
Are you done breaking down film for the weekend or for this?
I got a long way to go, actually. So
that's good.
We'll get there, though.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate you being here. Megan, as always, Roger, Drew, everybody. Hopefully we're back again next week and talking about the run you guys are making, and then talking about Alabama, hopefully hosting a regional if everything plays out well. Thanks again. Last thing, I've just been handed something from a token barter, Evelyn. It says regional tickets are available. This is from Dan Heck, who just got in touch with Evelyn. Dan Heck from our athletic department. He said regional tickets are available at the FSU website. It's a very drivable deal at 4.5, 5 hours from Birmingham. So they're trying to get as many people out there. I'll get that tweeted out as well. Birmingham Southern on Friday at 3:45. Catch them online on ncaa.com. We're 5 o'clock Friday, probably ESPN Plus, you think, Megan?
Yes.
ESPN Plus.
All right. Friday at 5. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Geoffrey, been an incredible guest. Best to you. Go get them and bring this thing home. All right. Thanks a lot. Roll Tide. Go Panthers.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Well done.